Okay, everybody, section 5.1, okay? Let me just tell you that chapter 5 is something that you probably haven't seen before ever in math, okay? It's really looking at word problems, and I'm going to show you the idea of how two things relate to each other. So, you know what? The first part really doesn't have much number calculation to it. It does have a lot of English and words to it, but I want you to get this concept first, okay? Chapter 5 is probably the weirdest stuff you've done so far in Math 10. But to begin, I want to give you some definitions because we need to know what we're talking about. So there are three terms that you'll see quite a bit in section 5.1. And the first thing is called a set, okay? Now a set really is the following. It's just a collection, okay? So it's a collection of distinct, and if you don't like to use the word distinct, you can also use the word different, okay? So it's a set or a collection of different objects. And I'll show you what I mean in a second, but grouping a whole bunch of different objects together, we call that a set, okay? And then we have this new term called an element. And an element of a particular set is really just one object that is found in the set, okay? And once again, I'll show you that as an example later on. And the key word for today is something called a relation, okay? And you kind of know what a relation is if you have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, okay? But the idea here in math with the word relation is that what we're doing is we're trying to associate, so I'm going to make a connection, associate elements of one set with the elements of another set. So we're making connections between two groups of things. That's the idea of a relation, okay? So write these down, please. And in this section, I'll show you that relations can be expressed or represented in many different ways. One of the ways will be as words, okay? We use English, we have words. Another way would be to represent them as what we call ordered pairs. So ordered pairs you've seen before, they're like the numbers in brackets like this. You know, for example, 1, comma 2. That's called an ordered pair. But we'll use it a little bit differently this time. You can also show a relation in a table, like a table of values. And there's one last one called an arrow diagram, which is something I think that's new to you. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to describe a relation 4 different ways. Okay? And so let's take a look at example number 1. I like money, so I went and I found out all the stuff about all the different coins we have in Canada. Did you actually know there are 7 different coins? You did? Yeah. Oh, I never knew about this one here, the 50-cent coin. That one's old, but actually it's there. I don't know if you see it, but it's there. So here's what I want you to take a look at. We've got coins, right? So I said consider the set of Canadian coins. There are 7 Canadian coins. And the image on the coin. So what you see on the $2 coin is a bear. Yeah. What's on the $1 one? A loon, right? That's what they call it, a loonie, right? And the 50-cent one, I don't know if you know what this is, but anyone actually know? It's like a crest, or I think they call it a coat of arms. Have you learned that in social studies? Yeah. Okay. What's on the quarter? Moose. What's on the dime? It's a special boat, you know. There's a name for this boat. Sailboat? No. It's called the Blue Nose, yeah. Ask your social studies teacher why it's so special. How about this one, the 5 cents? Beaver, and then 1 cent? Maple leaf. Okay, so what I want you to do here, and I want to show you, is this. An example of one association is this. We can associate the value of the coin to the image on the front of the coin. So notice as an example here. Here's an example, okay? Which coin do you want me to take? Loonie. Okay, so I'll say a loonie has the image of, what's the image? What's on the front? Yeah, of a loon. Okay? So here's an example of how we can tie these things together. A loonie has the image of a loon. I could have said something else. I could have said a toonie has the image of a polar bear. Okay? Or a nickel has the image of a beaver. Good. So notice we have elements of what I call the first set and then elements of a second set. Now this is one way of doing it in words. Let me show you how we would write this using ordered pairs. Well, as an ordered pair, what I want you to do is use those brackets. And of course, the first term in the ordered pair is the actual name of the coin, so that's the loonie. And the second term would be the image, which would also be the loon. So can someone help me out? If I were to say now, we've got a toonie. How do you spell toonie? T-O-O, okay. That's, by the way, a $2 coin. What's the image corresponding to the $2 coin? Polar bear, good. Okay. Can you list out some more ordered pairs for me? Help me out, somebody. Give me an example. Yes, Mehdi. The penny, sure. And of course, the penny is 1 cent, so we can call it the 1 cent coin. And what's the image that's associated with the penny? The maple leaf, good. What else do we have? The what? The dime. Okay, the dime, of course, is 10 cents. And what's associated with that? I'll say that's the blue nose or the ship, okay? Now, we're going to have to list them all out. So what else do we have here? Any other coins, please? The 5 cents, which we call the nickel, right? So the nickel is 5 cents. And what is the actual picture associated with that one? Beaver, good. Not Bieber, but beaver. Anything else? The 5 cents? Oh, 25, right. The quarter, which is 25 cents, and that's associated with the moose. Okay. And then I think there's one more. The 50-cent coin, I'll just go 50-cent coin. And that one will say it's the coat of arms. Okay. So notice here, dear friends, you've now taken this relationship and you've set them in ordered pairs. Okay. Now, there's another way we can show the same information, and that's using a table. So instead of listing them out as ordered pairs, I can list things out as a table. Well, notice we have here the value of the coin and the image on the front. So perhaps we should do this in order. Let's do this in order. Let's do this as a penny, okay? So penny is 1 cent, and then we'll say nickel, which is 5 cents, and then 10 cents. What's the 10-cent coin called? Dime, yeah, I just forgot. Quarter. Okay, so I'm going to list out all the different possibilities now. 50 cent, and I'll say loonie, and I'll say toonie. Okay, so those are my values of the coin. And if you want to connect this to the ordered pairs, it was always the first term in my ordered pair. And what I'd like you to do in this case now is just list the image on the front. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and please list the image on the front. For the penny, what's the corresponding image to that? Maple leaf, good. And I know you're going to write this again, but sorry, this is just the way it is. Nickel is the beaver. It's confusing. So, yeah, well, I'm Canadian. That's why I put Canadian coins here. There's a moose, yeah. Dime is a boat, or the blue nose. The quarter is the moose. 50 cent is the coat of arms. The loonie is the loon. And the toonie is the bear, the polar bear. Okay. So notice here I'm doing the same thing but showing you a different way to organize this information. Okay, so as an ordered pair, as a table, guess what the next one is? As an arrow diagram. Now this one is probably stuff that you haven't seen before. But notice I have two circles. The stuff in the circle, once again, is a set. So this is a group of things. We'll call it a set. This circle is another set. Well, what two things am I talking about here? What group of things are we talking about here? Look at that. Coin value. So maybe my first set over here will be talking about the coin value. And what do you think my other set is going to be? The image, right. Okay. Or I'll say picture, maybe. I don't know. Picture, image, whatever you want. Okay. So what I want you to understand here is that the coin value is associated with this picture. So I'll say the coin value has the image of some sort of picture. So as an arrow diagram, what you do is you want to separate this into two sets or two collection of objects. And what are the actual coin values that I have? Well, guess what? You've got the 1 cent. What else do we have? The 5 cents, the 10 cents, the 25 cents, the 50 cents, the dollar, and the $2 value. And what's in the other one? What things do we have for the picture? Well, once again, I know this will be the last time you write this down. The leaf, the beaver, the blue nose, the moose, the coat of arms, the loon, and the bear. Okay. Now, I like the arrow diagram, and this is the reason why. Remember those terms I showed you earlier? Set and element. I hope you can now see this, okay, as an example of a set, okay? So remember, a set is defined as a collection of objects. So here's my collection of objects. They just happen to be values of coins. Is there another set in this picture here? Yeah, this is also a set, because this seems to be also a collection of items, right? So these are two separate sets. And if I asked you, tell me one element in this set of coin values, you would be saying to me, pick one of these things, either a penny, a nickel, right? So these are all elements. So I'll say these individual items, okay, individual items. How do you spell individual? I-N-D-I-V-I-D-U-A-L. Yeah. Individual items in a set are called elements, okay? So I'll say a penny is an element of the set of coin values, okay? Now, with an arrow diagram, there's one more thing that we haven't done. It's called an arrow diagram. So what are we missing? Arrows. You have to make the connection between elements in the first set and elements in the second set. So what's the connection between the 1 cent coin? Where should the arrow point to? The leaf, right. How about the 5 cent coin? The beaver, right. So I want you to draw arrows also connecting elements in a set. And this is how we show the relation. It's like the $2 coin and the bear are together. The $1 coin and the loon come together. The 50-cent coin and the coat of arms are together. Okay, they are related, connected. Okay. Now, before we move on to part D, I have a little note in this box, and I want you to read this. It says, note, since each element in the first set, the one on the left, matches with only one element in the second set, we have a special name for this relation. And you might see this in your textbook or in future math courses, but this is called a one-to-one relation. They are exclusive. So when you date, which you shouldn't in high school, okay, if you do one-to-one, please, one boyfriend at a time, or one girlfriend at a time, not 2 or 3, that's just not good, okay? in math, it's also not good. So, you know, it must not be good. All right. Now, the last thing I want to show you is, let me show you how you can write this in words. Okay? Shh, no names, please. Okay? All right. So in words, how do I write this in words? What are we trying to connect here again? We're connecting the value of the coin with the actual picture. So here's how you can write this in words. And I'll write it for you, and you can copy this down. I'll say the relation, okay, because we are talking about a relation here, a connection. And I'll say the relation shows the association. Okay, association means the connection. Okay, the association of what? Well, I'm trying to connect the value of the coin. So the relation shows the association of, I'll say, the value of the coins. Okay. And I'll underline this so you know this is the first item, the first set. To what? What am I connecting this to? Well, I'm connecting it to the image on the front of the coin. Okay. And I'll underline that because that's the actual second set. Okay. Now, there's one more thing I want you to write down before we turn the page, and we'll be done very shortly today. But what I want you to understand is, once again, we're trying to show connections between things. I've showed you the connection between the value of the coin with the image on the front of the coin. And notice the arrows always, in this case, go from left to right, and that's it. And what I want you to make a note is that the arrows showing going from left to right matter, because I want you to understand, in this case, this relation has direction, okay? Has direction, okay? Because this only makes sense if you go from coin value to picture. It doesn't make sense the other way around. It doesn't make sense to me to say, well, for every leaf, it's equal to 1 cent. Or for every bear, you get $2. That doesn't make sense, right? You bring me a bear, I'll give you $2? Like, no. You bring me a moose, I'll give you 25 cents? No. It doesn't make sense going backwards. So I want you to understand, for this relation, it has direction. It doesn't make sense, I'll say this, it doesn't make sense to read this relation backwards. Okay? So for example, bear does not equal to $2, okay? Doesn't make sense. That's why the arrows only go one way, okay? One way. All right. Next page, please, when you're ready. Okay. So now I'd like you to try on page 2 to do this on your own. So on page 2, I've given you another example of relation. And what I decided to do was I surveyed some grade 10 students at South, and I asked them, well, how much homework do you get for your different courses? And usually for English, they said on average only 5 questions a night. I was like, wow, that's it? Pretty good. Math, I don't know who gives you 20 questions. Who would be so mean to do that to you? Science, you get about 10, they said. Socials, 5. French, I don't know what this number is. What do you think? About maybe 8? Sure, about 8. Okay. So what I'm saying to you here is that the subject area can be associated with the number of homework questions assigned. So what I'd like you to do first of all is, now, can you write this relation as an ordered pair? And then can you write it in a table? And I want you to list them in alphabetical order. So by subjects, we'll do that in alphabetical order. And then I want you to try using an arrow diagram like what we saw on the previous page. And yeah, that's it. Okay. Shall I start you off with an ordered pair? I'll do one with you together, and then you can finish off the rest. Can someone help me out? What should be the ordered pair as an example? We'll start with English. Yes. So Suleiman, help me out. English. And then what do you want to put as the next element? 5. Good. Okay. So go ahead now, you guys finish off the next ones, okay? But if you're not too sure, I think we also have math, and then the corresponding number with math would be 15. I think it's 20. Isn't it 20? Science would be how many? 10. Socials, 5. And the last one was French, right? French is 8. Okay, so there's my ordered pairs. Pretty straightforward, I hope. Now, as a table, once again, I'm going to list this in alphabetical order. So what's the first subject I should put down here? English, thank you. Help me with the next one since I don't know my alphabet. French. Oh yeah, EF, good. What's next one? Math. And then what? Then science, and then socials, okay? Now, I know in your textbook they'll ask you to put it in alphabetical order, so I'm going to ask you here too, but it really doesn't matter. Number of questions for each. The English one has how many questions? 5. French has 8. Math has 20. Oof. Science is 10, and socials is 5. Good. Okay. And then see if you can now complete the arrow diagram, please. Okay. So if you want to think about what goes in here, probably the subject. And then I think over here is the number of questions. So number of questions. And if you want to put a little description for the arrow, I'll say this. And they told you this above. It says it's associated with the mean number of homework questions. Mean just means average. So I'll say subject has an average number of homework questions. Okay. Of, and then you can complete the sentence with the number in the second second set.